Greetings. My name is Letitia Hensley, and I'm the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools Director of Family and Community Engagement. We are excited that you are joining us today and know you will gain great insight from this session. At the conclusion of today's session, please provide feedback so that we can continue to support you with amazing sessions that will be provided throughout the year. Now, without further ado, we'll turn it over to our presenters.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Building Bridges, Effective Strategies for Parent Leaders. My name is Tierra Mahoney Paulino, and I'm with Dual Vita Consulting. I'll share a little bit more about myself later. To begin, I want to make sure that everyone who needs translation support or captions understands how to arrive there. So what you'll see in the top right corner of your screen is a place to click captions. Once you select captions, you can click show live captions. From there, you can select the language from the drop down that you need. And because I happen to be bilingual in English and Spanish, I'm going to repeat those directions in Spanish. Si alguien necesita traducción, en la mano derecha, arriba, en la esquinita, puede seleccionar captions. Después, haga clic a Show Live Captions y de ahí puedes elegir español para que, aunque sea la presentación esté en inglés, puede leer las capciones en español. During this time together, we invite you to fully engage. Two main ways to engage are the Q&A area and the reactions area. In the top right corner, you should see the Q&A space. If you have a question, you can type that into that box. The questions will be monitored throughout the presentation, and we will have Q&A time at the end of the presentation in order to respond to those questions. As far as being able to engage further, we invite you to react. You'll see the reaction space, also top right-hand corner. There you'll see the opportunity to give thumbs up, heart, clap, laugh, surprise. I definitely invite you to engage in this manner as well, because even though we're not able to see and communicate with each other, this is a great way to show when things are resonating, when we feel as though something is a good idea, or we have a question further about it. And I find that as a parent, it's often, parent and caregiver, it's often encouraging to know that I'm not alone. So please, please, please use those reactions whenever you feel that they express whatever you're feeling. A little bit about myself. Again, my name is Tierra Mahoney Paulino. I am the owner and principal consultant of Dual Vita Consulting. We specialize in creating fertile ground for Hispanic and Latinx folks to succeed by consulting with schools and other organizations to ensure that they have policies and practices in place that support the Spanish-speaking community. We also offer opportunities like this one to engage with the general public in regards to connecting and advocating for their children within schools. But my top two duties are being a wife and a mother. I have been married going on 12 years now, and my husband and I have 4 children together. Our eldest will be 10 in May, and she is a CMS student at North Academy of World Languages. Our only boy will be 5 in March, and he is also a CMS student in pre-K at Winding Springs. And then we have the joys of our world, our twin girls who will be 3 at the end of next month. And I share about being a wife and a mother with you all so that you know that I'm not just someone standing up high on a mountaintop trying to tell you what I think or what I envision. But this is something that I live every day as I work with my own children and their schools as well, and other parents and families. One of the things that we want to highlight is the benefits of parent leadership and engagement. Parent leadership and engagement is a space that generates an opportunity for everyone to win. It not only benefits families themselves, it also benefits students and the school community as a whole. Some ways in which it benefits families is it can increase your understanding of the school system and your child's education. It can provide empowerment for you to be able to advocate for your child and your community. It also builds connections with other families and school staff, which is what we are going to focus on today. As far as students are concerned, students can feel more supported and confident because they know that their parents and caregivers are engaged in their school life. You understand more about what's going on. They also get the opportunity to see their parents and caregivers as role models of leadership and responsibility, which encourages them to advocate for themselves, especially as they get older. It also gives your students an opportunity to build connections and gain support from their peers. As far as schools are concerned, when there are parent leaders who are involved and engaged, it can bring fresh ideas and perspectives to the school space. It enhances community involvement and fosters supportive, thriving school environment, and it increases family engagement. And there are many upon many studies that show high family engagement equals high student success. Here are our foundational questions for today. By the end of this session, you should have the answers to all of these questions, and if you don't, keep me honest and ask them in the Q&A box. You will know, what is a network? Who should be in my network? What are the benefits of having a network? And how can I grow my network? And I know we may all have our own definitions that we have arrived with today about what a network is. So we're going to talk about that, especially in the context of being a parent leader and being engaged and involved in our schools. But before we get there, I'd like for us to think a little bit more generally and think about, what are the most important relationships in your life? And as you think about those, I would like to invite you to put those into the Q&A space, just to kind of show what kinds of relationships have been important to us as we arrived at this stage of our lives. And in addition to thinking about what the most important relationships are, whether past or present, or even some that we envision for the future, let's think to ourselves also, and then share in the Q&A space, why are those relationships so important? For example, for me, one of the most important relationships in my life is my relationship with my father. And it's important to me because my father has set a standard for me by showing me through his actions and his love what life should look like. And I use that to measure how I think, act, and behave in my life to ensure that I'm living the life that I envision. So, again, I invite you to share in the chat, what are the most important relationships in your life, and why are they so important to you?
I know one of the most important relationships within my life would be the relationship I have with my husband, as he is the father of my child and will be an active member in raising my son with me. And we have some of our participants who have shared in the Q&A the most important relationships that they have are with their parents, their children, and their siblings.
Excellent, excellent. I figured that many of us would share some examples like our family members, our parents, our spouses, our children. I hope some friends came to mind, as well as some coworkers, even some supervisors and mentors, and maybe even some of those who we have relationships with through our religious or spiritual practices. So let's talk about what a network is. Just to grab a baseline definition, just to make sure that we have a foundation from which we can all spring our ideas as we continue to move through this presentation. Based on the definition provided in Oxford Languages, a network is a group or system of interconnected people or things. Again, a group or system of interconnected people or things. And in the context of what we're talking about today, in parent leadership and engagement, we want to think about being interconnected as people who have a focus on the same or very similar goal. So, as parents and caregivers, as educators, as community members, we all, at the end of the day, want what's best for our children and our students. And so, with that being the common goal, whether we think about our individual students or if we're thinking about students overall, we think about our interconnectedness as being focused, as moving toward that overall objective. So, now that we have a clear understanding of what a network is, or a foundational understanding for the purposes of this conversation, let's start to think about who should be in our network. Specifically within the educational context, we should make sure that we have teachers as a part of our network when it comes to our child or children's education. Teachers are going to be your primary source of information, whether that's regarding things that are happening at the school on a whole scale or individually with your student. I can't express enough how important it is for you to develop a relationship with your students' teachers from the beginning of the school year. And this can be as simple as creating a small touch point of introducing yourself. I know when I was in the classroom, I actually had a father of a student who wrote a letter to each of the teachers, kind of introducing the student, introducing some of the family's values and beliefs, and telling me more about the student and how that student learns. That can be very key information to be able to share with your teacher, with your student's teacher, again, from the beginning of the school year. It also, creating that touch point at the beginning of the school year also creates an open line of communication so that the teacher already knows, hey, this parent or this caregiver is open to me sharing information. And so I want to make sure that's someone I can bring my guard down around, if I have one, bring my guard down around sharing information with. And if my student is ever facing challenges, I know that this parent or caregiver has connected with me. And again, it's an open line of communication, so the information sharing flows freely. So definitely want to make sure that we build relationships with teachers. As our students get older, of course, sometimes the teachers maybe become more departmentalized or divided, if you will, as far as your student may have a teacher for English and a teacher for math. Your student, as they get older and move up into middle school, may have, we're throwing in other teachers as well as the subjects become more divided. And what I would say to that is work on building a relationship with each of those teachers. So again, they know that they have the open line of communication to be able to speak with you about anything that your student needs. This is also important because which we'll get to a little bit later, as your student shares things that are happening at school, if you already have open communication with the teacher, it's probably information that you're already familiar with, or you easily have that line of communication to go to and share whatever your student is expressing at home with the teacher. A next important contact that definitely should be a part of our network are school administrators. One thing to note about administrators is oftentimes there is a division of roles because of the way that many of us may have grown up, especially if you grew up in the United States and you went to schools in the United States. Oftentimes we think about the principal, and that is the head, and that is who I need to talk to if I'm having a problem that the teacher can't resolve. Sometimes what we as parents and caregivers might not realize is that there are a few people at different levels in between the teacher and the principal who actually may be more suited to help resolve whatever issue we're having or elevate whatever concern or idea we may be having as well. So when I say administrators, I want you to also think about, in addition to the principal, I want you to think about your assistant principals, your deans, even in some cases, um, your behavior management technicians, because these folks can again be a part of the wider network, and not necessarily that a principal may want to put you off, but a principal not only is responsible for everything that's going on in the school building, they're also responsible for advocating at the levels above the school. And so, where communication may have a higher chance of getting lost, you may be able to find that as you engage and develop relationships with vice principals, teacher coaches, deans, those types of folks. Another level to consider, or another list of folks, another group of folks in our list of important people to be a part of our network are specialists. So these are people who have really special roles as far as it pertains to engaging with students. These are people like counselors, social workers, multilingual staff, exceptional children's staff. These are people who are able to address very specific and particular needs when it comes to our students. And they're also great people to be able to have a relationship overall. For example, when my daughter started school at North Academy, we had just come out of the pandemic as far as school being mostly, if not fully, virtual. And so that's how she spent her kindergarten year, and her pre-K year was cut short. So she didn't really have the best understanding of what building relationships with children her age at school really looked like. So in that moment, I leaned into her counselor, leaned on my relationship with her counselor to kind of help me stay informed about how my child was developing socially, as well as to be able to do some more frequent check-ins with her just to make sure that everything was going okay and that there wasn't anything that I was missing. And this seemed to be particularly important at that juncture because at the time, as you'll remember from when I introduced yourself about my children, um, my son was around 1.5 and I was carrying my twins. So I couldn't be everywhere at once, basically, is what I'm getting at. And being able to lean on that relationship with the school counselor really, really helped me be reassured that my child was developing, specifically socially, in the school environment. So these are folks who, again, have special roles within the school, and that can help you, connecting with them can help you meet specific needs for your student. I also would like to highlight and emphasize multilingual staff because, as you all know, Charlotte-Mecklenburg County is a very diverse space as far as languages are concerned. So, if you are from a family where a language other than English is spoken in the home, know that there are resources available to you through multilingual staff to be able to engage. And I know in my family, again, we lean on that, especially when ensuring that my husband is well informed of what's going on at school. Another one would be another group of folks would be other parents and guardians, caregivers. I can't tell you how many times I have texted either the WhatsApp group that we have for my child's grade level, or parents individually, or have talked with folks when we show up to different events. Other parents and guardians are super helpful. I'll remind you of what I said earlier. It can be so encouraging to know that you are not alone, um, that you're not strange because you've experienced this and you feel a certain way about it. But being able to share that experience with other parents and caregivers, guardians, is, I can't even put a price on it or quantify how great that is. And it also gives you the opportunity to kind of see, for me specifically, developmentally, what's going on with my child. Is she behaving similarly to her peers as far as her cognition and development, or am I missing something here? Is there something more that I need to be asking of the school or advocating for? Is there something more I need to be asking of her? So other parents and guardians, definitely chef's kiss as far as making sure that these folks are in your network. And then lastly, but certainly not least, I'd like to emphasize building a relationship with your own child. This is something that might even make you take a breath or take a beat and say, what do you mean by that? Because as parents and caregivers, we already feel so very strongly connected to our children, and we definitely have a relationship with them, don't get me wrong. What I mean here is being intentional about the relationships that we're developing with our children. Here I would say, think about not only who your child is currently, but also who you envision them being in the future. And not only who you envision them being, but also how they envision themselves and what they want to do and what they desire. As you continue to create open space for your child to communicate with you, not only about what's going on at school, but what's going on with them in general, this will help ease specifically the challenging times and also provide a little bit more enjoyment to the more positive times. Your child can be an open book if you allow them to. And so it's super important, again, to just create a special relationship with your child, allowing them to share, encouraging them to share, asking them intentional questions. I've heard it said before, go beyond saying, how was your day? Or what did you learn? Ask them what their favorite part was, or ask them who did something funny at school today, or ask them, who won the class game that they played today. If you know that your child plays a lot of games at their school, just creating these opportunities for our children to communicate, again, that open line of communication can speak wonders to what we're able to know about what's going on from their perspective, which allows us to be greater leaders and advocates for them in the school environment. So here we'll talk a little bit about the benefits of building a network. And some of these we addressed when we talked about parent leadership and engagement. So we'll echo some of those points. First and foremost, when you build your network, you put yourself in the best position to advocate for your child. Again, you're able to, when you engage with other parents and caregivers, for example, you're able to gather other data points of what's going on with other students. Was this homework sheet equally challenging for other students? Is there something that the students want as a reward for their success that you see that many of the children would be excited about? Is that something you want to share with the teacher? Are there ways in which you can connect with your teacher, their child's teacher, excuse me, and be able to advocate for their needs and ensure, especially if your student already has something, a written plan, whether it be an IEP or a 504, you can have that open line of communication to ensure that the teacher and your student and you are on the same page about what those needs are and how they're going to be met throughout the school year. You also put yourself in a better position to help your child with their learning. I know because, again, I'm a parent myself. We get a lot of announcements, we get a lot of newsletters, we get a lot of one off, oh, hey, by the way, this is happening. We get information from our student when they're excited about something and really want to share it. And we can get inundated with a lot of information. We get phone calls, we get it all. But if we are able to leverage our relationships with teachers, administrators, other parents, caregivers, and our own child, that can help us filter through the information that we're receiving and be able to prioritize, be able to add certain things to our calendar or action items to our to-do list. And that gives us the opportunity to be able to enhance what's going on with our children. For example, if I know because I have a relationship with another parent that I can call that parent and say, hey, can so and so talk through question number 13 with my child, just so that I can make sure that they understand it? I'm having a hard time explaining it. Because that other child is also in that teacher's class, that explanation is likely going to be more aligned with whatever the teacher instructed, rather than us trying to Google or run to the library or whatever the case may be for resources to support our child. Additionally, I've heard it way too many times to count. Makes me think of that phrase, if I had a dime or a nickel for every time I heard it, these children are doing that new math. And that's not how we were taught. But if we are building our network and leveraging our relationships with educators, other parents, our own child, we can start to learn how to support our children by learning what they are learning and being able to apply it to situations where they need our support and our assistance. And foundationally, just knowing that what's expected of our children, whether it's daily assignments or an upcoming test, that puts us in a better position to be able to support them because we're able to build, our family schedule or create an environment at home that will support them preparing for completing those assignments or preparing for those exams. It also gives us an opportunity to create a village for our children. One of the key examples that I think about with this is I grew up playing basketball. So basically, from when I was in seventh grade until I graduated from high school, I was not only on my school team, but I was also on an AAU or YBOA team. And by being on that team, my mom developed relationships with other parents of my teammates. And so when it came to shuttling us back and forth to different practices or taking us out of town for tournaments, I was able to see my mom be other people's chauffeur and be chauffeured by other parents. And that kind of created this collective responsibility for our development as young people, as well as for our safety, especially when it came to traveling. And the way that I believe that this relates to specifically nowadays is, again, we hear, whether it be on news reports or community members or information from the schools, that our children seem to be more, we seem to be moving more and more in the direction of isolation. And so our children, whether it be with their friend groups or even having other adults they feel comfortable engaging with, it seems to be far more limited. And when we're in this space now where there's a lot more moving and eating on the go or studying on the go, it can be challenging to have a safe space beyond our home environment for our children. And when we're able to build our network, extend into the school environment, extend into the community, touch base with other parents, we're able to create that proverbial village for our child where we know, again, like I mentioned earlier with my story about carrying the twins, having a 1.5-year-old and having a child in elementary school, I could not be physically everywhere at once. But I had that network of people who could pick up my child if I needed them to, the counselor who could check in if I needed her to, creating a safe space where my child knows, hey, if for whatever reason my parents are unavailable, I know some other adults, I know some other trusted children that I can go to kind of help meet this need. So now that we've talked a little bit about the benefits of building a network and how beneficial that can be, let's talk about some practical ways of being able to build our network. First things first, attend school and community events. So, of course, as I already mentioned earlier, we'll get those newsletters, we'll get that calendar of events. Try to show up. I know that it can be challenging with some of our work schedules or other demands that we have on our lives. So, what I suggest is committing as a family or committing as a partner to show up to at least one for each semester. So, one in the fall and one in the spring when it comes to school events. And that can be anything. That can be chats. I know some schools have coffee chats with the principal. Some schools have presentations done by their SEL, their social and emotional learning team. Some schools have donuts with dads. Try to commit to at least one school or one school event per semester. Start there. That way it doesn't feel so cumbersome if you can't go to every performance or if you have to take off work. Another thing in regards to taking off work, I would like to put out there is there are many companies who provide what are called child involvement hours, and there's special time set aside for you to be able to take off work without consequence so that you can be involved in a child's life. It doesn't even have to be your child. So I would look into that if that's one of your big barriers, work environment. I would definitely consult with my manager or my employee handbook to see if you have those child involvement hours available to you. And if not, as a parent leader, I would encourage you to advocate for your company to review that policy to see if it could be something that could be implemented to allow you to attend your child's events. Again, family engagement benefits the school community being benefited benefits the whole overall community. So definitely advocate for that. As far as community events are concerned, there are plenty of organizations in the area that host events, whether we're talking religious organizations, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Library, CMS events, um, Parks and Recreation events, a slew of nonprofits. There are all kinds of events that you can attend. And so if for whatever reason attending school events can be challenging for you, I would encourage you to see what's happening in your community, even if it's your local grocery store hosting an Easter egg hunt. That is a community event. That is going to put you in a place and a space, and I think that's the real goal here. Putting yourself in a place and space where you are going to meet and encounter other people with children, other people who may even have children who attend the same school as yours or are the same age as your child, to again give you the opportunity to build those contacts. Schedule play dates with your child's friends. Now, believe you me, as a mother of four who are of varying ages, I totally understand how challenging this can be. However, I've found two things that help me to be successful with this. One is I'm informed by my child who their friends are. and I learn more about their friends and what types of activities their friends are into. And then I ask my child, if I haven't met their parent yet, I ask my child, I may write a letter or something to give to the other child so that then the parent can call me. Um, this just creates an opportunity not only for your child to interact with someone they really enjoy spending time with outside of school, but then again, puts you in the place and space where you're able to have conversations with someone who has a similar experience to you as far as their child being around the same age or attending the same school as your student does. And again, this doesn't have to be something frequent. It can be, again, commit to, one per semester. I often like to use this, particularly with my eldest, as a part of our reward system. So I may commit once a month to creating a play date with her most special friend. And part of how she arrives at the ability to have that play date is showing me that she's doing her best in all aspects of her life, whether that's school, whether that's her extracurricular activities, how she engages with her siblings, how she helps out around the house. We reward her with a play date with her most special friend. And so that's a way to kind of not only create a place and space for you to engage with other parents and caregivers, but also celebrate your child, reward your child, and give them the opportunity to interact with someone that they really enjoy spending time with outside of school. Another key can be joining parent groups at your child's school. So your PTAs, your PTOs, other advocacy groups. If you find yourself in a situation where your school doesn't have that and you feel and you feel able to, and you would like to demonstrate your parent leadership in this manner, I would look into how to get one started. Also, the parent group that you join doesn't necessarily have to be something so officially organized as a PTA or a PTO. It could also be an informal group with all of the parents who are in your child's class or grade. Like I mentioned earlier, at my eldest school, we have all of the parents who are in the same grade, have children in the same grade, and studying the same language on a WhatsApp chat. And so that's a space where I can tell you it's not all parents all the time engaging, but everybody has a space where they can pop in and say, hey, what about that homework? Or does anybody know, is today a uniform day or not? Or this is supposed to wear something special? Or when's this upcoming event? Or even coming together when we want to celebrate our children's teachers and administrators as well. And then lastly, if for whatever reason you don't have the opportunity to attend events or schedule play dates, one of the things that I strongly encourage is you talk with your neighbors, your coworkers, your faith-based community members, your community members overall. Find that community and that network, that village, wherever it is that you may be. Whether you know you go to the same grocery store twice a week and you see that same cashier or that same manager, engage with them, have a conversation with them. When you attend your faith based events, your services of worship, those kinds of things, stay a little bit after, maybe 5 minutes, and make sure you introduce yourself to someone. Talk with your coworkers, talk with your neighbors. The reason why I say this is because, again, if we think about it, we look at how our leadership, our engagement influences what's happening in our home by impacting what's happening at our school, with our student. What's happening with our student impacts what's happening at the school community, which is another level up. And what's happening with our school community impacts what's happening with our overall community. And so, even if these are folks who don't have children or don't even have children at the school that your child attends, engaging with your neighbors builds a village. So, I remember living in one neighborhood where we had a neighbor, and I hadn't even ever met her before, but she was used to seeing my daughter get off the bus, and the bus stop happened to be right in front of her house before she had to walk down. And so this neighbor, when I did finally get the chance to meet her, said, "Yeah, I've been looking after your child every day. I see her get off the bus and I see her walk toward you, and I always make sure that she's walking toward you when she gets off that bus." And that was just so encouraging to me in that moment. So again, this neighbor didn't have children my child's age. If she has children, they were definitely adults. But she was there looking after my child, making sure my child was safe. Um, those are the types of relationships that I would like to encourage if you don't have the opportunity to attend these school events or schedule play dates or join a PTO or PTA. Talk with your neighbors. This also can be very important when we think on a broader scale about how we advocate for our children, because having these conversations where our neighbors are informed. I know for me, for example, oftentimes when a bond comes up about education, I hear a lot of people who don't currently have children in schools questioning whether or not those dollars are needed and how they'll be spent and all these kinds of things. And I find myself as a parent and able to engage with them because of the relationship that I have with them, to help them be a little bit more informed about where those dollars are going and how they're being spent and what successes my family has personally experienced based on that. So, again, just to reiterate, our ways to build a network include attending school and community events, scheduling those play dates with your child's friends, joining parent groups, formal or informal, and just talking with your neighbors, your coworkers, faith-based community members, exercise group members, whomever. Just continue to build those relationships to ultimately build the village that you need to be supported. We are definitely not meant to walk this life alone. That's often why we end up in community. So continue to think about ways and envision ways that you can put yourself in the position to be able to connect and nurture relationships. So now that you have a network, I want you to think about how you can encourage advocacy. You can do so by hosting advocacy workshops, for example, providing sessions on understanding school policies, rights, and procedures. You can create advocacy teams, meaning forming small groups of parents and caregivers so that you can support families who are navigating things like IEP meetings or language barriers. You can raise awareness, make sure that the other school community members or community at large members are informed about school board meetings, public forums, opportunities to influence decision making, as I was just mentioning earlier. And then also being able to elevate voices. So there may be underrepresented families that you can partner with to be able to support them as they express their concerns to the school in a respectful way and help see them through those processes as someone who is walking alongside them. Having this network can also give you the opportunity to empower families and support learning at home by organizing an academic night. So you can host a family of math game night, STEM challenges. We actually just did this at my daughter's school last night. They had a family fun night with a literacy focus where we had a representative from the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Library come and talk to parents about different resources for supporting our child's literacy in their addition, not just in English, but in their additional languages, which was really fun and useful. You can share resources, so you can create a library of take-home kits or sheets or access codes for educational apps and websites. You can build a study group. So similar to that phone call example I was saying earlier, you can just go ahead and create a safe space for the students to come together and work together on the work that they have ahead of them, which is also going to be super important for developing their ability to collaborate with their peers as they get older and establish their careers. And then also, you can empower families to promote consistent routines by offering workshops that build effective study habits, help manage screen time, or set up a productive homework space at home. All great ways that we can help other families advocate and be empowered to, again, ultimately find success for their student. So it wouldn't be a presentation by Tierra Mahoney Paulino if I didn't give you the opportunity to walk away having taken some sort of action. So at this time, what I'm going to ask you to do, since we're not able to be in the same room and do this face to face, we're going to create this in the virtual environment. I want to invite you to share a brief introduction about yourself in the Q&A area. I know it says chat here, but in the Q&A area, I want you to share your first name or nickname, share the school stage of your child or children, so elementary, middle, high, and then share one school-related topic you already know a lot about and one school-related topic you wish you knew more about. So my introduction would look like this. Tierra, elementary. I know a lot about language learning for kids. I'm a Spanish teacher by trade. My child's in a language immersion program. That's one thing I definitely know a lot about. A school related topic that I wish I knew more about was or is continuing to extend social etiquette into groups of children. So when they come together, they're raised in different homes, some have moved from other states or other countries. How can you develop some appropriate social norms with kids when you have them engaging in that kind of way? So go ahead and share for yourself in the Q&A space an introduction that includes your name, the school stage of your child or children, a topic that you already know a lot about, and a topic you wish you knew more about. I'd also like to invite you, if you see someone who has shared something that they want to know about and you know a lot about, or vice versa, you want to know and they know a lot about, engage with them and just say, "Oh, I see that you know a lot about third grade math. Would love to connect," and see if you all can set up something. That concludes the presentation. We will shift into the Q&A portion in just a moment. Now, I just want to invite you all to share your feedback about this session with us, with CMS, by using the website that is linked below. It's a bit.ly website. So one of the things that I want to make sure you're clear on is that the case of the letters does matter. So you'll just go to bit.ly Family Academy feedback, and the first letter of family, the first letter of academy, the first letter of feedback will all be capitalized. And we definitely want to hear from you. We appreciate and we celebrate you as a parent, family member, leader, taking the time today to engage with this session. This already says a lot about your investment in not only your child's education, but in your school's community and the overall community. So we definitely want to hear from you. about this session, about potential sessions in the future that you would like to see, and about how your experience overall is going. So please, please, please head to that website and provide us some feedback. Let's get to the questions.
Wonderful. We have had some great questions in the chat in the Q&A today. The first of which, we are new in town. I feel like there were way more opportunities for face-to-face interactions with teachers in our old school. Also, there are no quarterly parent-teacher conferences. What's the protocol to actually meet teachers? So we shared as a written response that you're able to reach out to your child's teacher and request a conference at any point within the school year. A great way to accomplish this would be to send a message on Parent Square, email, or calling the building to make that connection. But what other suggestions would we have to make some great connections with our teachers, Tiara?
I definitely would double down and agree with what Molly has already shared. Sending the teacher a message. I think oftentimes when we come from different school systems, or even when we think about what school was like when we were going through school, we think about these more formal, structured, okay, this is the time to talk to a teacher. Well, while that may be the case, as far as if you show up at an event and you try to have a conference style topic conversation with the teacher, they may be busy trying to organize the students or get everything in order. And so they might not have that time to have that sit down chat right there in the moment. I do want to encourage, similar to exactly what Molly shared, send a message to the teacher. You are able, that is within your rights, to request a meeting, a conference with the teacher, to be able to discuss anything. And and it has been my experience in both schools that I have worked at, as well as schools that my children have attended, that when I requested, that request is met with open arms, and a meeting is scheduled, whether it's phone or the question mentioned in person, um, to be able to come together and meet with that teacher.
Thank you. Another question that we've received is there a way to see the family directory for my class and for my children on Parent Square so I can reach out to other parents? I did share in writing that unfortunately, due to student privacy, we are not able to share a family directory, but a great place to start making these connections would be by attending those school and community events that you were referencing before, or joining into a parent leadership group like the PTA, the PTO, the SIT to get started. What other ideas do you have to share with our participants today?
I definitely would agree with all of those, and also just when there are those opportunities to connect, whether it's at the beginning of the school year or mid-year, being able to say, "Hey, I'm a parent who would like to know other parents," and maybe even expressing that with the teacher, they may be able to help facilitate just a list of parents. Hey, do you want to be on this list or not? That's basically how our parent WhatsApp group got created. Was one parent said, I want to be in touch with other parents or other caregivers in my child's class. The teacher sent out a message on their behalf saying, hey, this parent would like to do this. If you want to join, that way you have the opportunity, and other people have the opportunity to opt into it. Um, we also I've seen it done where there's a room parent. So there's a parent or caregiver who partners with the teacher and kind of serves as the person who facilitates that kind of communication, which really comes in handy when it comes time for celebrations for the teacher's birthdays, or celebrations or events for the students. Helps the parents kind of organize a little bit more. So those would be my main suggestion, would be connecting with the teacher if you don't get the opportunity to attend those events, as Molly mentioned before.
Wonderful. Those were our questions that we have. I did want to share some of those introductions that were shared. We have a family from the virtual middle school that knows a lot about how to build the network, but they would like to develop their child's social skills and empathy towards others as a virtual student.
Wow, what a great thing. I think that definitely as a virtual student, you definitely need to know who your network is and how to build a network, and then desiring to know more about building social skills with students. Just if I may offer one quick suggestion, it would be attending. I've seen a lot of events at the library lately that have been really geared toward what preteens and teens are interested in right now. Some of that gaming, STEM activities, some of the makeup and glamour types of things, the vision boarding, jewelry making. So I would definitely check into the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Library calendar of events with any library branches that are nearby or that you're willing to drive to. And that could be a great space to get your student in the same space as other children around their age or the same age to be able to engage. And those are free.
Wonderful. Thank you. Another family did share that they are a middle school family who is new to Charlotte, and they wanted to learn more about parent engagement, and how to meet the teachers.
Yes, I think that is definitely key as a new member of the Charlotte community. And I hope that today's presentation helped a little bit with that, being able to jump right in. I think sometimes we can find ourselves as parents and caregivers a little bit hesitant to quote unquote bother the teacher because we know they're so busy. We know that they not only are planning excellent learning field days for our children, but they may have their own engagements and priorities they have to head home to after they spend their days with our students. But I think if we acknowledge, just the humanness of the folks who are in our community, we can just reach out. So it just takes a small step of using Parent Square. I use Parent Square a lot. I think it's a very simple platform to use to be able to engage with my students, teachers, or email if email is your thing, or as Molly mentioned too, just making a phone call to the school. You have the opportunity to say, hey, we're new to the school, we just registered. We know that there may be a lot of different things that have gone on, some different information that may have been communicated at events before we arrived. We just want to meet the teacher and get to know them a little bit better, and ask for that. That's definitely something that you can ask for.
Great information. That does conclude all of the questions that we've received in the Q&A.
Excellent. Well, again, I just want to celebrate and appreciate you all for taking the time out of your day to hear about how building bridges can not only further the success of your student, but the school community, the overall community, creating a space where everyone wins. I invite you to continue to remain engaged with CMS Family Engagement as they continue to provide opportunities to continue to develop yourself as a parent leader and as someone who is engaged and involved in your students' learning. And I definitely look forward to future opportunities to connect with you all. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.